I just realised I haven't gone live for a really long time, and this morning I listened to the lovely Paula McCurdy did a podcast. She interviewed me last year in lockdown, and I was talking about all these acts of bravery I did, and I realised, you know what, I haven't been doing them lately, so I just thought I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm not wearing makeup. I put on lipstick, but not wearing makeup, not wearing mascara. I'm just going to go live and chat to you something about I feel really passionately about, and that's about opportunities on Instagram and about open calls. So open calls, I was actually going to write this post, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go on live and be brave and chat. Open calls, if you're not an artist, are the equivalent of an actress or an actor going for an audition. You send your painting, a digital image of your painting, out to an open call. An open call is an opportunity to have an exhibition. Sometimes they're free, sometimes you have to pay, but there are opportunities, and I have a spreadsheet and I have them by date, and I try and enter a few every month. They can be time consuming, and the thing with open calls is you get a lot more rejection than you get yeses. And I think what happens is we tend to get the rejection and we just don't share that because it's hard, it's a bit hurtful, and we kind of think, you know, you don't feel good about it. And then when we get the yes, when we get a yes, then we tend to go on and say, oh, I'm delighted, I'm really honoured to have been accepted in this open call. So what's happened to me is I've been entering all these open calls, and most of the time I get a no. I get a lovely email saying, thank you so much. There was a very high number of submissions. It was very difficult for the jurors to decide. And unfortunately at this time your paintings were not successful. And please do not be disheartened and enter again in the future. And that's kind of the norm. And then yesterday I got a yes, and I did a post because I was so happy and I wanted to share it. But then I felt really bad because I thought there are other people maybe who I know in the art community who I've met in real life or through Instagram who maybe applied and didn't get a yes, but they might have got a yes to something else. And last week I was at Art Source in the RDS, and I felt very disheartened. I must say I found it really, really difficult. I've never done any kind of trade fair or art fair, and I found it really hard, and I felt very emotional. I felt like crying all the time, and it was also like this kind of constant rejection. Why did I feel rejected? Because I wasn't making sales. Now, I don't want to be validated by sales. I want there's so many reasons you want to be an artist, and it's not all about making sales. Sales are lovely and they're nice, and I suppose it is nice to be able to pay for your art materials, but it's not the whole thing. And when I got home and I had a good night's sleep, I felt deeply embarrassed by how upset I had been. And so many of you who I met at our source were so generous and so kind, and told me about the long game and had all this perspective. At the time I didn't have the perspective. I was just exhausted and upset, I suppose, and out of my normal environment, and I was just kind of tired. So thank you to everyone who was very kind to me at Art Source. So I just want to share you this painting, which I love. I call it The Territory of Motherhood, and it's one of my new stain paintings where I painted on a piece of raw canvas on the floor, on the ground, and then I built up layers. And I was really struck listening to the podcast with Paula McCurdy. We were talking about motherhood, and I was thinking it then, and now it's definitely coming into my painting so much that it's now coming into the titles. I don't know if you can read this or if this is back to front. The Territory of Motherhood. And one of the things I mentioned with Paula McCurdy is about signpost paintings that somehow are significant to you, and they're like pointing you in a new direction. And I said that I make a mark, and actually I made a mark on this painting. I'm just going to show it to you there. If you can see it, it's a little SP and a star or an asterisk. So SP could be special painting or signpost painting. So I do these on ones that I want to remember. They kind of bring me in a new direction. And I love this painting and I'm very proud of it, and I'm very, very happy that it's going to an exhibition, and I'm going to make the most of that opportunity. I'm going to go and try to go to the opening night. But what I used to do, when I started out, I used to enter open calls and I would get a no. And I might get, 12 no's, 20 no's before I got a yes. And I used to track the no's and track the yeses, and I found that really, really helpful. So that's what I would advise you to do if you are an artist and you're going for open calls. It kind of depersonalizes it and it takes the sting out of it a little bit. And what I used to say to myself, every time I got a no, I'm one step closer to my next yes. And I found that really, really helpful. And even though it's a blow and you feel hurt and you feel rejected, it helps you move on to the next one. And there's many reasons why you don't get into open calls, and they're out of your control. Again, being a bit like the actor going for an audition, and I used to act, and I used to work in theatre, so that's why that analogy often comes to me. And it's an act of vulnerability, putting your painting out there, but the yes is all the sweeter when you get it. So I'm thrilled to be in this open call, and it's a gallery I've had my eye on because they tend to exhibit abstract work, so I'm really, really thrilled. But I had got a no last week from another gallery that I love, so that's the way it is. See the comments there. Thank you for the honesty. It's a tough old road. Oh yeah, it is. It is, and I think it's about, what I'd forgotten a lot. I was listening to what I said when Paula interviewed me, and I'd actually forgotten some of the stuff I said, a lot of it. And I suppose I need to listen to my own lessons, and that was one of the things I talked about depersonalizing the no's, so recording them. And I think what's happening now, if you look back, if you track anything, you'll notice, you don't feel the improvement at the time, but if you track it over time, you'll see the improvement. So now I probably don't get 12 no's for every yes. I might get 5 or 6 no's for every yes. Some months will be a bit better, but usually every month I might apply to 4, 5 open calls, and I might get 1 yes. So my odds are definitely increasing, and it helps you be less despondent because you can think, I'm making progress. And hopefully at the time, you're working at your work, your paintings are getting stronger, your chances of getting accepted increase. But open calls are an opportunity for emerging artists, or for people like me who, when I started off, I didn't know anybody in the art community. I'd never really exhibited. I exhibited in a community space. So for me, they're a level playing field. And I'm very grateful for gallery spaces that do open calls. I'm sure it's a huge amount of work. I think it's, it's an opportunity. So I would say, if you're getting no's, don't be disheartened. Keep going. Keep entering. And also, if you get a yes, enter that painting into other things. Because if you're like me, the work won't sell at the exhibition, it'll sell later. So maybe keep it, don't put it up for sale, and enter into other things. Because sometimes there is one that just attracts attention and does well, and that one might do well other places. That's another tip. So I tend to hold back some paintings, not put them up for sale, and keep them for myself or for open calls, work that I think is strong. In the spirit of generosity, another idea I had is I love Instagram and the opportunities it gives us, and I find it's a great way of sharing other artists and promoting other people, not just about yourself. So anytime I go somewhere, I always make a point of photographing other artists and tagging them, because I'm lucky now. I have some followers and they love art, so maybe they'll go across and follow other people as well. And I notice that other people do that, like interior designers do that. They share each other, or house accounts do that. And I think artists should do the same thing, because there is a wonderful world out there of people who would love art, and they just need to find your painting. So the more we promote each other and help each other, we can do that. So I always believe in doing that. I'm really happy to do that because I love art. I love painting. I also collect art. I always have. Another thing I thought about is I get asked questions about Instagram, and now I was thinking maybe I could share some of the stuff I've learnt. I just got asked something about, how did you do this? Now, I'm not an expert. There's lots of things on Instagram I probably don't know. So I'm saying you're very generous in your time you give to other artists. Met you in Cork twice. You've been so kind. You're a lady. Thank you so much. Through your dreaming eyes. You need to put your name on your Instagram because I keep forgetting your name. So that's a tip. So I was thinking maybe I'd put some points together. Maybe I would do a live. Maybe I'd do a little workshop. Would you be interested in? I'm just really thinking off the top of my head, but maybe it struck me at ArtSource. I got a lot of questions about Instagram, and it seems to me that a lot of artists could be doing more to exploit the opportunity of Instagram. Instagram is a visual medium, and it's a great way of sharing your work. People go on Instagram. It's a bit like the modern day version of flicking through a magazine. You know, they want to look at beautiful things, and they want to be entertained. They want to be inspired. They might want to shop. But what is a painting? A painting is a story. You know, every painting is a story. How you made it, the inspiration behind it, the process. And Instagram's a great way of sharing that story, of connecting with a possible audience. So I would be happy to share what I've learned if you think it would be useful. So I think what I'll do is post this if I remember how to post it. And if you could put down in the comments, what do you think? What format would work? Maybe a workshop, maybe on Instagram, maybe off Instagram. It will be online, I'd imagine. I don't think it'll be in person. And I don't even know how I would show what I know on Instagram because it's on my phone and I'll be showing my phone. So I'd have to figure all that out. But like many things, I get an idea, I put it out there, and then I'll figure it out afterwards. But do you think it would be useful? It would be Instagram tips for artists and creatives, particularly because that's what I find it's great. I think it's a great way of finding collectors and finding your fans, find other artists. So that's my thoughts. So with open calls, go enter them, find them. There's lots of websites that you can be on. Write down the date in your calendar or somewhere so you don't forget, because invariably you will forget. And also then when you enter a painting into an open call, I just put a colour code on it because I'm so visual, that I make sure I don't enter that into anything else until I've heard back yay or nay, on the off chance it's going to be yes. So you don't want to enter the same painting into multiple places until you hear back from the first one, as a kind of a courtesy. So track what goes in, and then track your yeses, track your nos, see how many you get over a month, over 6 months, over a year, and then just see how the yeses start improving. And for me to be an artist, moving from a non-creative life into a creative life, I've had to take many risks. You know, going on Instagram now is a risk. I should be packaging this painting. But I just had these ideas and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to share them. And I'm not going to overthink it, I'm just going to talk. And I think you've got to risk, you've got to take risks if you want to make change, if you want to move the needle in your life, you've got to take risks. And one of those risks is entering an open call every time. You can't get a yes without risking the no. And I really, really believe that. So keep risking the no. And every time you get a no, just think, I'm one step closer to the yes. And also, by going for things, I think the universe or life just rewards you for that step of bravery. Like, so for example, me going to ArtSource on paper wasn't a success. I didn't cover my costs. But as I'm always being reminded, art is the long game. And undoubtedly, something will happen. Somebody who saw me or somebody who went to my website, it'll lead to another opportunity down the line. And that's the way it works. The more opportunities you open yourself up to, things will happen to you. You're in the game. And every no is like a badge of honour that you're in the game and you're trying. So that's really it. But let me know if you would like some kind of Instagram tips, tricks, how to, like some of you might be even better than I am. Like I'm not a guru, I'm not an expert, but you know, I like it. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but it's, you know, I find it's, and I like anything you do, the more you do it, the better you get. And I think it's a really, really useful tool for artists. So that's it. They're my thoughts. And thank you all for joining. I can't believe there's so many of you are available at 10 to 3 on a random Tuesday. I'm off to package this to go to the post office. So thank you for listening. I hope this made sense. And, it's all about positivity, risk taking. Take care.